Okay, we're recording. Hi,
Okay.
everyone. This is Tony at Shining Hawk Healing, and I have today as my guest, Maureen Cox, also known as Chef Mo. Let's start with just tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got started in this business.
Okay, let me see. Well, first of all, my name's Maureen, and I live in, and we have a pretty big piece of property, so we have a really robust garden at this point in time. And when we first started, that's really what we were looking for, is space to have a garden.
Mm-hmm.
I've always cooked for myself, and I'm one of those unique people are into the fact that a lot of people, when they're single, they don't cook for themselves. I always cook for myself. So I just thought everybody did. And then later on, I thought everybody cooked healthy, right? And then I realized that there was a lot of people that didn't know. And my friend Elaine, our mutual friend Elaine, was the one that got me my first personal chef gig.
Oh, wow.
So yes.
So what was that about?
I started cooking, I cooked for myself. Like I said, I cooked for friends and family, and I just really enjoyed it. And I was talking to Elaine one day, and she said, well, a friend of mine's looking for somebody to cook. And they were a lot of vegetarian, vegan kind of things. They actually did some raw meat too, which means I didn't need to cook it. Actually, I could deal with it. I didn't have to cook. So anyway,
because are you a vegetarian or a vegan?
I'm actually not. I do a lot of vegan. I cook mainly vegan food.
Okay.
And some vegetarian, because we have hens that lay eggs. So I use eggs in some of the dishes.
Yeah.
And lately I've been doing more baking. So that involves butter. I try to use vegan butter, but I've also used pasture-based butter. So, but I do occasionally eat fish. So I eat wild-caught salmon mainly.
Yeah.
And lately I've actually been making these fish bone broths because my husband's chiropractor suggested that we do some kind of bone broth. And I go, well, we're not doing beef and we're not doing chicken and we're not doing pork. So, I said, what about fish? And he said, yeah, sure. So I've been doing fish bone broths with seaweed and all kinds of stuff. Anyway,
I've never had a fish bone broth before.
Oh, they're really, really good.
Oh, good.
They're really good.
High is that omega-3s?
Yes, especially if you're doing salmon. And I always specify to get wild caught, and I always buy my fish at the farmer's market. Megan, the fish lady, and I have become friends. So yeah. But anyway, so that's my exception. But for the most part, for the last many, many years, I've eaten mainly vegetarian and vegan. So it's just recently I've kind of branched out more with, like I said, the fish bone broths and using butter in baking. Because for a long time, everything I make for a lot of people is gluten-free mainly. Yeah. But I actually, I started doing that because I have an issue with wheat. But for me, it's not specifically the gluten, it was wheat. But then I found out that I could eat heirloom brands of wheat and I can eat sourdough because sourdough actually consumes a lot of the gluten in the sourdough process. So that made me want to have bread again, real bread. They have gluten-free breads now that are good, but they're very few and far in between. And you really have to find somebody that's what they do, like Vegan Mario out in Ojai. He does it right. But a lot of the places, you get it, all the ones you buy in the store are pretty much sawdust on a roll. So anyway, going back to me, my friend Elaine, our mutual friend Elaine, hooked me up with a friend of hers, and I just started cooking for them. And I really enjoyed the experience. And I thought, okay, I can do this. And so that's kind of where I'm at. And I mainly cook. I do I started doing some things for retreats, small retreats
Mhm.
and workshops and things like that.
Mhm.
And cooking. I have I cook at home for some people to pick up. And I've cooked in people's houses. It just kind of depends on what kind of service they're looking for. I kind of do a little bit of all of it. But my mission is basically that you can eat your way healthy. You know, it's like the Hippocratic oath that doctors supposedly take, which they no longer take, by the way.
They don't?
Harm. It has been eradicated from medical schools.
Well, why? Do you know why?
Well, what I was curious, and somebody asked me this question the other day, is there a parallel between that and where our medical system is today? The thing is, to me, first do no harm is the integrity of, okay, I'm not really sure, but let's find out.
Right.
And the difference is, let's try this, let's try this, let's try this.
Mm-hmm.
And, our medical system is severely broken. And, COVID has just kind of really brought that to the forefront. Mm-hmm. Yes and no, because now I just saw an article this morning about how much money each one of the vaccine companies are going to make because of the vaccine.
Yeah.
So, we have a lot of work to do with our medical system, but in actuality, I think we are moving away from obviously traditional Western medicine, and we are moving more into energetic medicine, which has to do with things like Reiki, and it also has to do with some technology-based stuff like frequency healing.
Yes.
And I've gotten into that over the last several years. And so we are learning that basically it's going to come down. We're going to need to take more responsibility for our own health. Mm-hmm. And I mean, that kind of starts with food.
Yeah, totally.
We go back to eat your way healthy again. Anyway, my eat your way healthy is that you can eat your way healthy. Your body's an amazing machine that can heal itself of almost anything. You just need to give it the right tools.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
yeah,
that's why I do what I do. What I forgot was the other part of that was the other thing that Hippocrates said was, let food be thy medicine, let thy medicine be thy food. So he knew way back then something that's taken us how many thousands of years to get back to.
And how long has the medical profession actually done that? Have they talked about food being the medicine and the medicine being the food?
They're actually starting to talk about it now, but I came across something about maybe a year or two ago, 2 years ago, I think it was. And it was one of the reasons they don't push eating better is because they figure people won't do it. They'll be non-compliant. So rather than them saying, well, I can give you this drug for your blood pressure, or you can try and do some dietary changes.
Yeah.
They don't even offer that option, not even on the table. They're just going to say you need to take this.
Well, and it has nothing to do with the pharmaceutical companies at all, right?
No, what it really has to do with how do they make money off of you eating better.
Exactly.
And they actually have found a way. 2 years ago, I came across something, and there were doctors who are now having like a class for their patients to show them some basic healthy eating tips. Okay. So then they had to figure out how they could bill that to your insurance company.
Oh.
They're doing it. They had to figure out what the billable factor was. So now they'll tell you.
That is hysterical.
They'll tell you in a class, and they'll charge your insurance company to teach you about eating healthy food. So it's like, okay. And there are more doctors that are realizing they're stepping up, and they're, you can see it on YouTube. Yeah. There's a whole slew of them now but the thing is, most of them have some kind of product they want to sell you. And to me, that's the integrity issue. It's like, don't eat this, don't eat this. Yeah. But if you buy my blah, 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 then you can eat that.
Yeah.
It's like,
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So what was so the motivation for you starting the business was it was just happenstance. It was because of the thing that Elaine sort of put you on that path,
Well, I
or
said at that time, I really thought most people knew about healthy eating. I really thought most people knew the basics about, well, cooking healthier food. What is that? What does that mean to you?
Mhm.
And then I started noticing there would be people I would meet, talk to, whatever, and they tell me, "Oh yeah, I eat healthy."
Mhm.
And then I would be invited to their house, or we'd go out to eat or something. And then I was looking, and I was like, wow, okay, your idea of eating healthy and mine are two different things. And it wasn't like I was saying that, but in my mind, I was realizing that most people don't know. They
Right.
honestly don't know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's hard, and it's hard because once you know, once you have the knowledge, then you have to act on it, and the action is hard. So then the knowledge sort of just maybe languishes a little bit because, oh, that might be a little bit too hard for me to do every day.
Yeah.
So, ah, that's
Well, yes, and for people that are already living on overload, like mothers in general, mothers that work a full-time job and
especially
raise
now.
children,
Yeah.
it's scary because it's one more thing that needs to be on their plate,
Hmm.
and they just can't. I had a conversation once at a party with somebody, and it was with the father, and we were talking about milk and how, if you're not buying organic milk, and if you're not, you're buying regular milk that's just pasteurized and all that. I was telling him that there's 30% of pus and blood is acceptable
Ooh.
in the milk industry.
God, I'm so glad my daughter's not around to hear that. She would be mortified.
Oh yeah, well the father was mortified, and I said, yeah, that's the acceptable standard
Oh
by
my
the
God.
FDA.
Wow.
That's the acceptable standard, and he was horrified. So he drags me over to his wife. You need to hear this. So I'm telling her, and then I said, well, best thing is, or if you can buy organic raw milk, it's got all the digestive enzymes in it, and it's going to be better for the kids, and there's not going to be pus and blood in it.
But wasn't there a point where raw milk was illegal?
Well, they were trying to make it illegal. It was never really illegal, but they were trying really hard to make it illegal. And actually what changed is there were a number of concerned parents and other action groups that went to Sacramento and basically spoke. And that kind of, from that point on, the tide kind of turned a little bit because they allow. But what happened was that brought to the forefront all of the issues about problems or legality or whatever. And so a lot of stores that used to carry raw milk don't carry raw milk anymore. And they had a big to-do because there was a place in Venice that sold raw milk products, raw milk goods, and they shut them down.
Oh,
they came in.
Erewhon doesn't sell raw milk.
Erewhon does.
Yeah.
Yes, Erewhon does. And actually, surprisingly, Sprouts does. But Whole Foods doesn't.
I didn't know that.
Sprouts does. Whole Foods does not.
Okay.
And Follow Your Heart, I don't think does anymore. But they've always been kind of on the vegan side. So but they used to carry more raw milk products, and now they don't.
But I don't think they carry any meat product, any animal products. The last time I was there.
Follow Your Heart. Yeah, I don't think they do now.
Yeah.
But they were carrying raw milk for a while. They had raw dairy for a while because I knew I was buying raw goat milk from them. But they stopped.
Did I hear you had a goat? Did you get a goat? Okay.
We talked about that the other day. It would be great to have a goat to eat the weeds, but they eat everything.
Yeah.
So no.
They'll eat your garden.
Yes. That's why the chickens don't free range in the garden. They free range in their chicken yard.
Yeah.